So welcome to the very first episode of YChats. My name is Alana and I am so excited to be here speaking to you today. We've been working on YChats for quite a while now with the main goal behind it is to have young people heard. So I think what happens is a lot of people say we need to give young people a voice, and really that's just not the case. We already have a voice, we need to be listened to. And so really this is just an opportunity to have young people heard, whether it's them coming in and speaking about some of their experiences or even listening to things that they want to hear about. So we really want YChats to be a platform for all of that. Before we get started, I just want to give a huge shout out to Elliot and the Sundown Studios for helping us get this first episode cranking. Okay, so close your eyes and just imagine the coolest studio ever, and that is exactly where we are sitting today. It is amazing. So if you ever need any recording work, any producing done, definitely hit up Elliot. He is the man. And also I want to give a huge shout out to all of the young people at YMCA WA, HQ and the base, because they sat down with us, spoke to us about what they were interested in, what they wanted to hear about, and really they helped shape what YChats is. So thank you everyone. With that, let's get started today. So what a lot of people said to us, which was really quite surprising to me, is that they were interested in about addiction and what that actually means. So that's what I wanted to speak to you today about. So let me introduce you all to Trish Hitchens. She is the clinical coordinator at Palmerston, Perth. She's been working in the drug and alcohol sector for over 30 years now across Albany, Katanning and now Perth. So she is just a whiz at what she does and has helped so many people across the state. So welcome, Trish.
Thank you, Alana. I feel very special now with that introduction.
Oh,
that's terrific. Thank you.
I'm so excited to have you here chatting to us.
Thanks.
So I guess the first thing I really want to ask you about is what actually is addiction? Because like the way I see it, we see so many things in the news and on social media, and it really is just such an extreme portrayal of what addiction is. Like an example that recently is on the news all the time is like a meth zombie invasion. And I just feel like we're really the messages that we're seeing about addiction are quite villainized.
Yes.
And I really want to sort of break down what addiction actually is.
Yeah. No, that's great. And thanks for picking up on that point, because I see those people on the street when I walk to my office and I think they're someone's child.
Yeah.
Somewhere along the way. So, but I won't sort of stick with that for too long. But addiction is a great thing to talk about because it affects people every day in different ways. And it can be anything from I can't give up chocolate to I really love my coffee and that's me, to, you know, being a gym bunny. And then you've got alcohol, drugs, cigarettes and so on and so forth. So it's actually a hugely broad topic. And I think it's really important to remember that because, you know, sometimes we throw the baby out with the bath, as you say. So in terms of meth and alcohol and cigarettes, still alcohol is a far worse addiction than meth. But meth will get the newspaper.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why we're talking about meth zombies. And the reason we're talking about that is because there's a psychosis that can go along with meth use. But let's reel back and actually just talk about that whole process of addiction. So what happens for most people is it's fun. It's recreational. They'll go to a party, somebody says, hey, have you tried this? And, you know, there's that thing where people go, yeah, I will. So out of that, you might get a whole bunch of recreational users who just use, say, meth or more likely alcohol more often. But they use that just as a tool when they're out, having a party, never get addicted, can leave it, walk away, not a problem. They just have a place for it. So that's what we'd call recreational use. Or occasional use. So people might say, you know, every couple of months, every 3 months, I might have a binge on alcohol or I might have a binge on meth or whatever. So that's still somewhere they could actually walk away from it. There's not a whole bunch of damage going on at that point.
Right.
But then it can start to escalate. So you get to a point where people build up a tolerance. So if you're using it more often, you might become more tolerant. And then when you stop using it, you might start to feel you've got some withdrawal symptoms. And so if it's alcohol, which is still far more common, people might start binging. They might binge, you know, once every 6 weeks or every 4 weeks or just on a weekend. And they're doing a lot of harm to their brain, especially, but to their internal organs. And then what happens is that can build up to a, hey, now I'm actually drinking during the week. and now I'm drinking the weekends, and then when I stop drinking, I'm getting sweaty, I'm feeling really nauseous, I get a crawly skin. These are withdrawal symptoms. So that means there's something going on. We need to look at that.
Right.
Yeah. And especially if we're binge drinking it, that's certainly something to look at. Doesn't get a lot of press. People are saying, oh, I'm not addicted. But actually, we're still binging and there's a pattern of binge use. So I think that's really important for people to pick up.
Right. Yeah. So then are there different types of addictions then, or is it just sort of...
Well, addiction sort of covers anything that you find you struggle to give up.
Right.
You know, so it's when you get to that point of dependence where you go, I really need it. So you start to plan. You might go, okay, I need that coffee in the morning. I've already planned. I've got my pods out, or, you know, I'm getting my coffee on the way to work, or, you know, I'm getting my cigarettes and I've got them all organised, or whatever it is, you're planning.
Yeah.
You're looking to have it included in your life. So we're talking about a dependency now.
Yeah. So it doesn't have to just be alcohol or...
No, it can be anything. Absolutely anything. So it's about the harm, really.
Right.
So if you're a gym bunny, you know, and you're addicted to getting into the gym every day, that's actually helping you. You know, so you're thinking, great, but, you know, you might not be able to not go to the gym. It's almost compulsive that I have to go to the gym, but it's actually not creating too much harm. So when you're talking about addictions, you're looking at harms. What is the harm to me? Physically, socially, financially. So we're starting to look at those sorts of risk factors, we would call them.
Right. So I guess then, if like you're looking at risk and things, that might be a way to recognise you have a problem.
Absolutely.
And then are there any... So how then... Say, for example, I am drinking throughout the week, throughout the weekend, but I'm like, hey, no, I'm still cool. Yeah. Like, whatever, this is just fun. But then how do I start to recognise, okay, hold on, this might be a problem?
Yes, and I think that's the key. So when people are in that, what we would call happy user state, because there's some stages to change, when there's no consequences, people generally just keep going.
Yeah.
It's only when we start to see consequences. So say you're at uni or at school and you start skipping classes. You start leaving things behind, or you start getting forgetful. It's starting to interfere with your performance, or you're taking time off work. So when you start to see some kind of consequence, that's when it's time to go, hang on, what's going on here? Like, I've been absent from school, or I've been absent from my job, or whatever. What's going on? That's the time to start saying, hey, there's a cost. Yeah. Or your friends might point it out. They go, you know what, you're drunk every night of the week now.
Yeah, I was going to say, because sometimes I guess, like when you're in the thick of it, you're not necessarily seeing that it's a problem.
Absolutely.
Like you're just having the time of your life or whatever. But so does it take sort of a bit of someone else to say, hey, you are drinking a lot, or hey, you're, you know, hitting the drugs a little bit too much, or things like that? Like, how would you then recognise that there is something wrong?
Probably if you're a young person, you're going to get that feedback from your parents.
Yeah. So
your parents are going to say, hey, what's going on here? You know, you're constantly in your room, you're never home on time, you've been missing school, I'm getting, you know, phone calls about you. So that's going to be some way that your parents, who hopefully are looking out for you, are going to bring that up. You know, which, you know, sometimes when you're the kid that's in it, you're going, my mum and dad are always interfering. Yeah. There's actually some good feedback. And your mates, you know, hopefully there's still some mates in there who aren't as party hardy. But what happens over time, if you decide that that's the way you want to go, is you can drift. I mean, people don't generally say, look, I'm growing up now and I'm going to be a drug addict.
Yeah.
It just doesn't, you know, it's not there. It's a gentle shifting of the goalposts, moving more away, spending more time with people who do party hard or who are drinking. So, you know, you start to sort of, in that sense, get away from your conscience. You're actually kind of in this place now. So it can be just a drift in that direction. So it's really good when someone can come along and say, hey, you know what? Something's happening here. I'm just a bit concerned for you, which is usually great coming from your peers, because your peers are not, you know, judging you. They're just saying, hey.
Yeah, they're just genuinely worried.
Yeah. I'm concerned about what you're doing, you know.
So I guess from there, what steps then can someone take if they recognise now that they do have a problem with a substance or something like that? Like, how can they try and get help?
I think one of the best things to do there is talk to the people who are in your group. Like, talk to your parents, talk to someone who's concerned about you. Be accountable, because a lot of this stuff, you know, if you keep using, you can start kind of hiding my use, hiding what I'm doing. You know, when it becomes this kind of secret, it's really difficult to help. So if you can get hold of someone that you can be accountable to, there's plenty of organisations that you can talk to. You know, you've got your Headspaces, you've got your Parent Drug Information Service, you've obviously got Palmerston will talk to you, and work with families as well. But I think it's really important at that time to become accountable and put it out on the table, because it's not like you're a bad person or, you know, you've done anything terrible. It's just you're caught up, you know, and it gets really easy to get caught up and lose your way. So, you know, let's get you back on the track. This is not the end of the world. People recover from addictions all the time. Some with help, some without, you know. So.
Yeah. And I guess too, that must be really hard because there is such a stigma that's associated with it.
Absolutely.
And I guess, like, from your experience, do you see a lot of people, like young people especially, who don't come and find help because they're like embarrassed, or they think that, you know, what they've done is like the wrong thing, that they're going to be judged for it?
Absolutely. I think that keeps a lot of people, regardless of age, out of treatment, thinking, look, I've messed up, you know, and I feel really bad and I'm ashamed. And shame can keep people away from treatment. When in actual fact, that's the time to come in. If you feel like that you're never past. If you're breathing, you're never past hope.
Yeah.
You know, so it's really, let's just get you in there and let's do something. And I think that's something that youth services do really well, is get behind kids and say, let's hear what you've got to say. Come in and we'll talk about it. And I think that's great.
Yeah, it's just, you know, recognising, I guess, that this is something you're struggling with, and then finding those resources to come and chat to. Absolutely.
And if you think about services who provide drug and alcohol treatment, we get to see a tiny wedge, usually when people are at the worst part of their addiction. I mean, sometimes we get them early, which is great because then we can really help. But at whatever stage that we see people, I think it's important that there's that understanding that there is no judgment. This is life.
Yeah.
You know, and still, I keep going back to it, alcohol is still way more of a problem than illicits. It takes more people out every year. You know, alcohol and smoking.
Yeah.
Two very preventable things.
I guess as well, because alcohol is so sort of, it's ingrained in Australian culture. Like, you know, how do you celebrate? You grab a beer.
Absolutely.
It's exactly that. So I guess as well, like, for young people, it's such a normalised thing that it's so easy to get into.
Absolutely. Yeah, no matter where you go. I mean, that's the Aussie way, isn't it? A barbie and a few beers.
Yeah.
You know, so I think the challenge for young people, and especially in rural areas and so on, is actually to try and build some resilience. So most of these things are about resilience, and, you know, being able to talk with your parents is still the number one most significant factor in people getting better, is actually talking to your parents. That relationship is for life. So if we can get people on board and we can start saying, how do we have alcohol-free events? How do we still have fun? You know, it costs us nothing to go with a ball to the park with our mates and have a game. You know, it's those sorts of things, and remembering they're good, and they build up our own endorphins and dopamine. So you start to feel great. If you're running around using up energy, you feel good. If you do stuff with people, you know, your own oxytocin, your own chemicals are going, yeah, this is great. So, you know, remembering all those good highs that make us feel just great to be alive. I think that's a great emphasis when we're working with people who are younger, especially. Build it in. Have some fun with your mates, you know, go out and do some stuff.
Yeah. And I think it's so nice to hear that something as easy as the first step is just having a chat to your mum and dad or your mate. Because I know, like, thinking if I was in that position, it's such a big step to talk to a professional, and that it makes it so much harder to even make the first step if you think you have to make that huge jump into something like a program or something so official. Yeah,
I know what you mean. So you can do a lot of stuff online now. So we run a SMART, which is a group for people who want to make they've got an addiction, but they want to make a plan. So it's a real nuts and bolts. What am I going to do next week to get on top of this? So you can just go to SMART online, and you can go to a group any day of the week. So, and there's different apps, you know, there's quite a few, so I'm not going to list them out. But if you go online, you can find so much help without having to do the face-to-face. If that's the thing that's going to stop you getting some help, get online, have a look, get into some of these chat groups. MindSpot, great, get onto them. They're fantastic, you know. So there's a whole bunch of stuff, and I would say to anyone, you know, just search it out, find what suits you, get involved.
And I guess for young people as well, like, I mean, me especially, I don't talk to my friends in person.
Yes, exactly.
I talk to them on my phone.
Yeah.
So it's like such a good idea, and so great that these people have an opportunity to speak to somebody and learn information in a forum that they're comfortable with as well.
Absolutely. And even if that starts there, and then you say, okay, I'm confident now to go and talk to someone.
Yeah.
You know, and usually it doesn't have to take like forever. I mean, people think counselling is this horrible thing and you're sitting there for an hour, and we're not digging.
No.
It's about, this is your life. What can we do to help and get underneath what's going on for you so that you can get past that? And I think the other thing to remember is that addictions can often come in when people have other issues going on, and it might be mental health. It's a huge crossover.
Yeah.
When you feel lousy because you haven't had any help, you're not on your meds, or you don't know that you need meds, that's a really confusing time. And I think to sort out what's going on there really helps to go and talk to someone.
Yeah.
Because then we know, is it this or is it this? What's the right way to go with you?
And I guess everybody is so different and like dealing with so many things that it's not an easy sort of fix for people. Like there's so many underlying factors that could be affecting things.
Yeah. Especially when you're in those years, you know, those youthful years, you know, if a relationship breaks up, that can be devastating. We need to get people to get to talk to each other, support each other. That's a very real issue. So, you know, it's how do you get some support through that? How do you build resilience? And it comes back to that question of building resilience and being able to have things go wrong, but get through them and get on with it. That's probably the most important task.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I guess that made me sort of think of something else when you keep talking about resilience, because quite often you hear people who, like, you know, they were smoking weed constantly and then they swap it for cigarettes.
Yes.
And there's sort of like a swapping of addictions but you're not really sort of addressing the underlying issues.
Yes.
So I guess that then comes back down to resilience, and like it's not just a matter of, all right, well, I'm okay because I'm not smoking weed, but you know, if you're smoking a pack of cigarettes a day, that's still not good for you.
Absolutely.
So yeah, like resilience is just so important. I think that's probably the key thing to take away. Absolutely.
So if you just swapping drugs from one thing to the other, we say that drugs have a function in your life. So what is it that you're getting out of that? Is that helping you? Is it a good way to get it, or is it not? Cigarettes are classic.
Yeah.
People who smoke cigarettes go, oh, it really relaxes me. Well, it doesn't. It puts your blood pressure up. It creates so much harm, and you're kind of a bit wired. So it doesn't do the things that you want it to do. But the break that you took to get out to have that cigarette, that's doing some good.
Right.
So it's just kind of separating out, what am I looking for? Is this actually giving it to me or not? Is there a healthy way for me to find that break that I need to just get away from the stress? You know, is there some way that I can get some skills, maybe journaling or something in the evening? I'm really stressed, I've got stuff going on in my head. Well, I need to just get it out on a piece of paper so I can look at it and go, wow, what am I going to do about this? What do I just have to live with? What can I actually make some strategies around? So simple things like that take away, this is the function I was getting, how can I do it in a way that's actually good for me?
Oh my gosh, that is just such an interesting way to think of it, because I always thought it was just like the addiction of the cigarette, like that's all it is. But no, like it's the whole process and the situation of it. Yep. So interesting.
So that's generally what gets us started. Like, you know, when we went back to the beginning of this conversation, is it recreational use? Is it trying to, I've got something bad happening, I'm now, you know, just trying to cover that. So we want to know the reason that you got to this place that you now need our help. And so that's the important thing to uncover, so we can make some strategies around that. There's still going to be some kind of withdrawals. If you're a cigarette smoker, you're going to feel lousy for a week.
Yeah.
If you're drinking alcohol, depending on what level you're at, you probably feel lousy and a bit off for a little while, but it won't be too long.
Right.
If you've been doing some meth, depending on how much you use, but if you've just been using occasionally, then you're going to feel lousy for about 4 days. So the chemical's going to go out of what you're using, depending on how much you use. You know, if you've been using constantly, it's going to take longer to get to recovery. But in the meantime, we're just trying to get those skills for you so you can have a good day.
Yeah.
You know what to do to help yourself have a good day. Yeah.
So, sorry, this is just, once you're out of withdrawal then, for example, is it just sort of a matter of like being in the habit then of like doing those things? So it's more now, once you're out of withdrawal and your body physically isn't looking for those things anymore, it's like breaking that habit?
Oh, absolutely. Especially if you're not really addicted in a physical sense, you know, so just, it's 5 o'clock, I usually go and have a drink now.
Yeah.
So doing something else at 5 o'clock becomes really important. You just change it up. What am I going to do in that period of time that makes me feel well? And I often tell people, go for a walk. You've just finished work, instead of going to the pub or the bottle shop or whatever, go for a walk. Do something in that period of time that makes you feel good, makes you feel tired, that builds your own endorphins. Again, we're just trying to encourage you to use your own chemicals in your body.
I guess, so something I think I'd like to finish on is there are probably so many people and young people listening who maybe feel like they could be struggling with this, or that it's something someone in their life is struggling with. So what's kind of one thing that they can take away from this and say, like, one piece of advice to give to these people?
I would say talk to someone.
Just as simple as that?
Absolutely. If you are having any worries at all, or you think there's any issue, just talk to someone. Share that problem. You know, it might not be as bad as you seem, or it might be, and we need to deal with the issue and not necessarily the drugs. If you're caught up in the drugs, come and talk to us there. So no matter how you look at that, first port is to actually go and talk to someone.
And that's just such... It's not even just related to this, is it? It's just such a life lesson.
Oh, absolutely. And that's the thing about this addiction. It's all about life.
Yeah.
You know, and it's about the tools for life, and it's about living the sort of life that you really want to live. And that gets back to being resilient and learning how to get through stuff.
Yeah.
So you feel better.
I love thinking of it like that, because in my head, addiction was always like the substance.
Yes.
But it's not. It's life, and learning how to deal with life and overcoming that. Oh my gosh, that is just so important.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Trish, I just want to thank you so much for taking the time to come and chat to me today. If anyone is listening and they want to learn some more about this, or feel like they might need to do some reading up, we've got a list of resources from Trish that we're going to post in the podcast description. But as well, you can hit up YMCA WA's Facebook and Instagram, and we'll be posting it there too. And not only that, if you want to jump to YMCA's Facebook and Instagram, hit us up with anything that you might want to hear about. Like, we obviously, like I said at the beginning, this is about you, and it's about what you want to hear and the issues that matter the most to you. So tell us, and we'll happily have a chat about them. So thank you everyone for listening to our very first episode, and I hope you drop in for the next YChat soon.